Hi, welcome to the Pints Polishing Podcast. I'm Marshall. That's Nick. You can find us at hyperCLEANstore.com to learn about the products. Go check out hyperCLEAN, or if you want to talk with us, you want to be a part of the community, go to the hyperCLEAN specialist group there on Facebook. It is the place to be at for more information. All right, Nick, next week, not this week, but next week, I'm going to Oktoberfest. So today I hopped into Coop Ale Works. It's a Oklahoma City craft brewer, and it's their Oktoberfest. Like it, smooth, easy. If you like that.
Question: do you have to keep saying craft beer?
Yes.
I mean, we just assume craft beer, or is that like a thing in the craft beer community? You got to let everybody know it's craft beer.
Yes.
But if somebody like looked at a wine drinker and they kept having to repeat the wine they were drinking, you see how it would get a little bit overplayed.
And
it's like, hey, I got this
wine
new craft beer.
They would tell you, well, this one comes from such and such, and then they would refer to that area every single time.
True.
No, the best wine comes from Napa. No, the best wine's over here. This wine is from this.
You ever notice the people that tell you about Napa don't realize that's not the best place in California that makes wine anymore? They're like, oh, this is from Napa. I'm like, yeah, I don't think you know what you're talking about anymore, because that's not making the best wine in California anymore.
Yeah. All right, so let's get into some buy and sell as I continue to enjoy this. I guess they call it a lager, but it's the German style lager, the Munich or something. I don't know. That's where I get lost. But yeah. I'm buying. I'm definitely buying this weekend, and it was a fun time to buy this moment, right? And it's a moment where I'll give some backstory. Right? Cleaning a car for this guy. I've known him a long time. He's been a customer. It's a beautiful blue. He bought an AMG GT53. Beautiful.
Nice.
Love it. The inside was just, I mean, wow. Like, that's really all you do is open it up and go, wow. Well, so we were filming. That's the thing, is people will see this blue car as it comes out later. And I tried to set up these shots where I use the microphone and do this a certain way. So I'm explaining it to the customer when I return the vehicle, right? So I'm returning the car to the guy. I'm explaining this moment. And he goes, oh, well, you should have used sport mode. Actually, you should have used Sport Plus mode. And I just go, wow, I'm buying you, right? I should have known. This guy is one of those car owners that he does know, even though he's got 4 or 5, he will know each section of what needs to be done. He's he's not like the car guy that's going to lift up the hood, but he knows how to do things. He knows to be around inside his vehicle, and he's 80 years old. And so I have this 80-plus-year-old guy schooling me on proper ASMR video work by telling me how to.
That's why we call you Tommy Tech at HQ. We keep calling you Tommy Tech. I mean, how does this guy know more about social media? Because we could hire him to replace Marty and Tommy Tech problems over there. Does he know how to set up a printer? Can he set up a printer? You might want to email him. Can you do that? No, that's a great story. That's a great car, by the way. I think it's, Mercedes, largely for me, sitting in a Mercedes seat because they've literally dumped millions of dollars into their seat technology, spine doctors and specialists. And when you sit in a Mercedes now, and I'm not talking about the C300 and stuff like that. I'm talking about their elevated S-Class or what you sat in, their big SUVs. It's unbelievable. I mean, it's a comfort level you really don't experience. Maybe Bentley, maybe Rolls-Royce, but for that to be in a Mercedes, like, they do it better than anybody else, I think.
Yeah. Well, and the fun part of it too is he goes, well, I told my wife I was going to live on the wild side. Like,
yeah,
okay.
I think I need to meet this guy, because we may have a gig at hyperCLEAN opening up. With the pumpkin beers and the craft beer, we might have an ownership spot available.
Listen, he was living on the wild side because he bought blue.
Hey, I still love it. Good for him. That blue looks great in person, I think.
It does, but he's a traditional. These guys, they always buy black. Oh, yeah. I know he had one white Aston Martin. I remember seeing that. He kept it for a little bit. Otherwise, it's mostly all black with an occasional silver. This wasn't out of the box for him. It was. It's that bright, beautiful blue. So it was like, man, you stepped it out a little bit, no doubt.
All right. I got to sell something. And we live in a pretty big HOA. fairly nice neighborhood. And every year they have a community sale.
Hey.
The HOA does an awesome job. They regulate it. It can't be trashy. They make people, you got to use certain type of table, so I'll give them credit. HOAs aren't the best thing, but they have their moments. Like they keep people's houses painted and, things like that. But when they tell you your trash can was out 10 minutes too long, that's a little annoying. But
do you ever get your yard's not met? I got that before. And I'm like, listen,
I got one time where they said I had a weed. I couldn't find the weed. I literally I was like, I'm not even sure what they're doing.
We were installing a sprinkler system. There was a problem. Then I think we had ice. There was multiple problems. So sure, our yard was dug up for like a whole month. But hey, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, so we had this weird thing. We renovated the whole house, and so the house is destroyed, and there's all these trucks everywhere. And then they bitched at us about all the trucks and said, "We're renovating the house." Like, what do you want me to do? Oh, well, that's a lot of trucks. I'm like, well, I don't own the general contracting company. What am I going to say? Can you bring 3 less trucks because the HOA is pissed? So, yeah, HOAs have their good and bad. But at the end of the day, they have this community sale every year. And I'm going to sell garage sale people. It's a very odd breed. You're literally going to buy other people's stuff that they don't want. And in theory, it sounds like I'm going to go get a deal. Cool. The problem I have is how slowly they drive around the neighborhood. And I'm not talking I don't speed in my neighborhood. There's kids running around, whatever. But the 5 mile an hour.
Who believes Nick doesn't speed?
Yeah, I don't speed in my neighborhood. Looking out their window, idling, inching forward, trying to see every garage sale. And they can see everything in that person's garage sale. Or whatever sale this is called. I guess it's not in people's garage. But the question I have is, get out of the car. 50 houses on this road have stuff out. Stretch your legs a little bit. Have you witnessed the garage sale people?
Oh, yeah. I've witnessed the slow pokiness, too. And I've witnessed it not only as I've watched people. Unfortunately, Nick, I've witnessed it, and I was in the car.
Oh, no. Seriously?
My mom is one of those people.
Oh,
now she's born again. She's
Mrs.
been baptized
Marshall.
away.
We can't have it. Have it.
She's now purely Amazon. So she has been baptized into technology. But growing up in the 80s, and definitely, I agree with that. She would hunt. And there's plenty of people that used to hunt garage sales. She would have the list out, right? You used to put it in the newspaper. She would take a list, and she would have the way she was going to go around hunting her garage sales.
My question is, how many blenders do you need? How many coffee makers do you need? These people are buying the same stuff every weekend. And look, all power to you, man. I'm not doing that. But here was the conversation in our house that's happened every year since we have this. I said, let me stop you. We're not having garage sale people in the front of our house picking through stuff we don't want. If you don't want it, let's go ahead and give it to a family member, give it to somebody you think you could need it. I'm not having these people out in front of my house for 8 hours on a Saturday. It's just an odd person. And it's not a judgment. It's just you don't see the most well put together people hunting garage sales. Now, I did see quite a few nice vehicles, and I thought, man, if you just bought a level below, you wouldn't even have to go to garage sales. Maybe the car payment is the issue. But let me tell you, man, every year I'm surprised, but I am selling the creeper in the car. I'm not selling going to the garage sale. It's clogging up the whole, because we have a big HOA, so there's a lot of people trying to get to their house, and all we heard all weekend for this 8 hours, honk, 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 because people don't know what you're doing. So
then connect all the dots. The people go really slow until they maybe catch an eye of what they maybe think they want to get out for. And then when they do, they want to nickel you down from $1.50 to $1.25.
Yeah, 100%. One of my neighbors, 5 or 6 doors down, he said that to me. He goes, I'll never do this again. He goes, I was selling stuff for $2 and people are trying to get 50 cents off and $1 off. He goes, it's $2. I'm like, Yeah, he goes, my wife talked me into this. He's an older Russian guy, one of the nicest guys in our neighborhood, and he literally said, I'll never do this again. And by the way, that's normally what we see happen. Very rarely do people do it 2 years in a row. Like 1 year, and then unless they just bought the house or something, they don't do it again. So it must be such a bad experience that most people just don't do it a second time. It feels like that's what they learn.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, let's do a couple housekeeping items. First off, I want to make sure everybody's invited over to the HyperCLEAN Specialist group, like we talked about it, and specifically to be there every other Wednesday night, 7:30. We'll make a post inside the group if you can't remember. 7:30 Central, and it is the community pub, and it is the place for you to go. Let's say you hear something on one of these episodes, and you go, man, I'd love to dive into a little bit more about that. That is the place to be. We have some beers you can take or don't take. It's up to you. Enjoy the pub however you want to. Come be a part, dissect that. But I also want to toss out this question because I saw this post and it was from a local group of detailers. And I just went, interesting. I wonder what other detailers are seeing. I'm seeing this, a group of people starting to sell their polishers, sell their pads, right? This guy had this.
Yep.
This big box of stuff, and he had multiple polishers, I swear he probably spent $2,000, right? Had the name on there, everything looked great, and now they went away to somebody else for $450, all in.
Yep.
Great deal.
I think people need to start opening their eyes to what is going on. A lot of people shutting down, especially a lot of mobile guys. Right? Guys that were kind of hanging on, but also some smaller shops. There's some deals for you. Hey, if you need some stuff like this guy, you told me that an old veteran, swooped in there and bought $2,000 worth of stuff for $400. You need to keep your eyes peeled. Now, if you don't need it or are not going to use it, don't buy it for the sake of buying it. But if you're like, hey, my polisher's getting old, this guy's selling one that looks like it's hardly used, you might be able to find a deal. Same goes for PPF right now. A lot of the PPF groups, guys saying, selling my plotter, selling 3 plotters, selling, 10 rolls of film. Vinyl guys, same thing. I'm seeing it all over the place. And look, this isn't a time that you root on, but if you're in this business long enough, what we would call the aftermarket car business, you've seen this before. You've seen this hit before. You've seen how this stuff goes, and you got to pay attention, and maybe you can get yourself some things that you need for your business, but don't spend money to spend it thinking you're going to flip something or you're going to, that is not the thing to do. If it's something you really are going to use or you need, this could be a time to find yourself some deals.
Well, the interesting thing, he said it was barely used.
Oh yeah. And it looked barely used when you sent me the picture.
Well, why was it barely used? Huh? Right. Then you can go into a couple. Anyway, we'll get into that in the pub, not here.
Yeah.
Okay, so welcome. It's unofficially fall is over now. If for those of you through the Midwest to other parts of the country who woke up to such cold temperatures and your tire pressure gauge is all going crazy because, right? That time of the year, you're giving people a hard time for having $6,000 nitrogen packages, but geez, at least they wouldn't have to deal with low tires, right?
Yeah, I'm sure their tires don't get low. We're lucky. 90 degrees here today. Looks like we're going to have, I got the AC on in the shop. We're going to have some warmer temperatures here. I got invited to the NLCS down in Arizona Friday and Saturday. It's going to be 100 down there this weekend in Arizona. At the end of the day, man,
that's enough.
I feel
for
people. I talked to a few people today. They're like, man, I got up and it sucked this morning. I was like, I got to tell you, I'm in shorts and a polo shirt. It's terrific out here.
Felt like we're in Canada. Hey, speaking of Canada, they just celebrated Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
And they're so thankful not only for that, they're also thankful for Kimberly, Vivid Auto Works. Everybody, great job, Kimberly. Kimberly stepped up and gone, listen, we need a distributor full-time here in Canada. We've had some kind of in and out. She's like, I'm in. Let's go. And so anybody that is listening that we've had plenty, we've already sent her listeners that have asked about Canada. If you're a listener in Canada or somebody in Canada, listen, we've got a distributor there. Her name's Kimberly with Vivid Auto Works there. Great job, Kimberly.
Kimberly, we can't wait to see your success. I'll tell you something that we believe. I believe Canada will end up being very big for us. I think they're looking for a brand like ours. We get comments all the time. I need stuff in Canada, need stuff in Canada. I think this is a big opportunity. And I think anybody listening in Canada, it's such a big country. There's a lot of room for everybody to grow up there. I think people are going to be surprised. We're going to see some massive growth up there.
Absolutely. While others continue to decline or we hear struggles, there's people like Kimberly that are basically leveling up their business during times like this. And it's awesome to see how people inside the community are doing that. They're taking these extra levels and they're taking one extra step. And here's a cool lesson that I learned. And I learned that this weekend, and it was pretty fun. I learned it from a movie. Go figure. I like to watch movies. And I was watching, did you ever see Black Panther?
No.
You ever get into? No, not Black Panther. So
is that another superhero movie?
Yep. Yeah. One of those kind of ones. They couldn't do number 2, right? So they made the Wakanda Forever. And what I really enjoyed about the spin of the way they spun bringing in the new Black Panther was, here's the way I took it is great people, they always get called on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I love that.
In class, right?
Yeah.
Let's go with, if you're at a soccer game and there's a foul, who's going to get to take the penalty kick? If you're in a basketball game, right? Whatever. Great people are always called on. And when we keep talking about becoming a specialist and how you become a specialist in your local area, like, okay, come on. If you think that you're great, then let's go. We're looking for great people. Great people always get called on. So distribution in your local area is something for you. Go to the HyperCLEAN specialist group or go over to the HyperCLEAN store, right? Fill out the contact form and let's talk about distribution, about you becoming great in your area.
Yeah, I think people would be shocked at the kind of money you guys are making off of this. Really just taking their knowledge and teaching people how to clean wheels or clean glass or, use the HyperCLEAN system as a whole. And guys are calling up, they're getting their second, third orders very quickly. They're finding there's a lot of people in your area, from car enthusiasts to other detailers to everybody, that just wants somebody to talk to. And, don't underestimate your value in being somebody to talk to. I think that's what we've learned, is that the consumer is wanting to talk to an educated person, because remember, you can take it in your own personal life. There's nothing you can talk to another human about anymore. It's always an email. It's always this. It's always call this automated number or talk to this AI bot. Look, man, it's really becoming a no-brainer, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So you've heard this, right? I'm going to throw this out there. I know you've heard it. I know the listeners have all heard it. Pretty much if you've been around the car market, you've heard it, right? Do me right when I got friends.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, send me a sample.
If you cut me a deal, I got 50 friends coming your way.
So when I heard this, I always think, why does somebody say that? What do you think? Why do you think somebody is that type of person that they're going to say, hey, give me a deal. I got friends. You give me something here, I'll help you out on the other side.
Yeah, I think because they don't really know how things work. They don't really deal with a lot of high-level people. High-level people know that's a bullshit thing. They also know that it's a red flag on that person, because people that are valuable and that would bring you lots of work and would help you in your business, they never even mention that they're going to help you. They just help you. They just get your name out there. They just, tell their friends or whatever. I mean, we got this, one of my guys works at a restaurant. One of my buddies works at a restaurant. He goes, hey man, this Mercedes came into the restaurant, and I asked the guy who did the PPF on it. And he started talking about, you'll never find somebody higher quality. You'll never, this stuff is really expensive to have done right. But I mean, basically all of our talking points. He goes, okay, why can I get the number? I'm just curious who it is. And he puts the number in his phone. He goes, it was you. I said, yeah, it was me. And he goes, do you know who it is? I said, yeah, I know who it is. And what you realize is that high value person never told me he was going to tell people, right? He never had that as a selling point. He paid me what I told him I charged. And then he went out and sang my praises as a good person's going to do, right? And people that are about it don't talk about it. That's the thing. And that's the real difference. And this goes into the hyperCLEAN side of things, not just detailing. You call up and say, hey, man, you send me a sample, I'll order $1 billion from you in 2 weeks. I mean, I'm so busy. I'm so elite. Elite people don't do that. I've never once had to ask a company for a sample. If they knew about my business, they were either willing and calling to tell me samples were on the way, or they were just going to ask me about, hey, would you consider our product? And they would tell me about their product, and that was the end of it. But high-level people, elite people, don't have to ask or say things like that. And that's just the truth of it. There really is no gray area, in my opinion.
Yeah, the ironic part of the conversation is it was a referral. He was referred to us. Yeah. Right. So inside of the conversation, we're talking about what he's been using. He's talking about how he's been so-and-so for so long, and he's done this and this. And, he's really singing his praises. I've never heard of him. Been around the state 20 plus years. Never heard of the guy, but he's been doing such amazing work. And then he starts listing, I was with so-and-so and I was using this, but now I'm using this X, Y, and Z, and that it is the pro, right? So I'm using the pro. I want to make sure I always use the best of the best for my customers.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you and I see is a lot of times they haven't been involved in that elite type of coding program, right? Because you can list out the 3 or 4 companies with the elite programs and go, okay, tell me which one of these you've been involved in. Well, I haven't. Okay, well then it's not elite, because there aren't 1,000 elite companies. There's a handful of elite companies. And so if you've never been with one of those companies and you don't know how they work, then you've never been part of an elite pro program. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't use whatever coding you want, but when you say he was referred by a very reputable person. He was referred by somebody that does do things the right way. You know what he didn't pick up on? How that guy does business. He just kept doing it his way. And it's like, hey, the guy that referred you, if he hears about this conversation, he's never going to refer you for anything again, because he would never do this. And as you know, when we kind of start getting into this mental conversation, a lot of times this mentality that we try to pass on to guys, when you throw up red flags, it happens quickly. Like, people can sniff this stuff out. Oh, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. You said this in the conversation. I'm going to have to test it. I'm going to have to test it to make sure it stands up. And I go, when you told me about it, I go, okay, well, tell me your test.
Well, a couple milliliters, going to put it on the side of a panel and make sure it's good.
Yeah. And again, what test? What test are you putting it through?
It's elite test, Nick.
It's elite testing. He can't tell you what it is. And so, again, it's about a mentality. The mentality is, if you really are doing things on an elite level, you would say, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and buy a couple bottles. I'm going to get it on some cars. I'd love, if it works, great. I'm going to be a part of your program. How do you think about it? That's an elite way of handling it. Like, hey, man, I just don't switch over my business, but I will meet your minimum. Go ahead and purchase a couple bottles because I think you might have something here. I'm going to get it on a couple cars, and I'll be in contact with you after I do a couple applications. That's the elite way of handling it. Nobody's going to have any problem with that. No, everybody understands that. And I certainly did that with a few companies in my career. That is the way to handle it. Is I'm going to get it on some cars, and I need to see how it installs. And, I'm going to need it on my car for a little bit. I'm going to put through some durability and some chemical resistant stuff. But, I need to go ahead and make a purchase, not I need a sample or anything of that nature.
So in his mind, right, he's a pro. He's been doing it X amount of years. He's top of the class in a sense. He's arrived. Does his, I guess the reason why I asked this question or set up the question is I set it up that way, explaining about how great people feel about themselves. You feel great about yourself. I feel great about myself, right? So I don't mean it that way, but would defend all the stuff he's been doing. And we've heard this from other people we've had conversations with. And then they say about what they've been doing, who they've been using and all that. I really want to, I wonder if I'll turn around and ask this to somebody in a conversation one time and go, so do you think that using those products makes you elite, right? Does using certain products or using other products, does a product make you elite?
I think it's a part of it, right? I think it's a tiny part of it. You need to make sure you're using reputable stuff. You need to make sure you're using stuff that lasts for your customers. But nothing makes anybody elite. We know a bunch of elite shops that got an elite tag from a certain manufacturer that went out of business or didn't live up to the standard, or they had to get rid of them because their work wasn't up to par. It doesn't make you elite. It's part of what makes you elite. And if you can't identify these fly-by-night companies or these companies that sell to everybody on their professional coating side of things, and if everybody can get their hands on it, what people don't know a lot of times about Sparta is we're very picky about who gets Sparta, right? And we're picky for a reason. We want to protect the network of professionals. But if you feel it's right for you, then you need to put in a contact form on the Sparta page and say, hey, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself, and I'd love to talk about Sparta. But it's also amazing how many people don't realize where they're at in their business. Sometimes Sparta or a 5-year coating isn't right for you in the moment. And there's nothing wrong with that. There was points in my career it wasn't right for me. But it is a part of being an elite person, being able to vet products and do business with the right companies. And I think a lot of guys don't take that as seriously as they think they do, i.e. this guy. When he told you the coating brand he was using, there was nothing about it that was elite. I mean, we can go on the website and order it right now. I mean, I don't have to talk to that company. I don't have to do anything with that company. Now, we have a bunch of coatings that you don't have to talk to us about. But when you're talking about our elite coating, you bet your ass we're going to have to approve you for it. And there's a reason for that, because we need to protect the infrastructure and the people that are really doing great work with that product, right? That's what builds something like that product. Everybody's capable of putting Uno on a car, and it's a great product. Not everybody's capable of putting Sparta on and getting the customers that require Sparta and building their business so Sparta is useful to them. So yeah, it is a part of it, but it's not the whole story. You still have to have the skills and the marketing and the sales to make that stuff work. And correct me if I'm wrong, none of that was part of the conversation.
Yeah, not a lot of it. The kudos to anybody that's been in business 10 plus years. They've done something right, and they've done something right for a while, over and over. And I applaud anybody that's been in that. It just became a part of the conversation where, he was basically trying to justify his quality and who he was based on a product that he was using. And it makes me think of other moments that we hear this. All right. How many detailers love to go to a car show, and that guy at a car show is going to tell a detailer about how good he is because he uses X, Y, or Z product?
Yeah.
Right. There is a tie, and we'll go over to the car show guy here in a second, but there is a tie in a sense between the two of them, that if you use a brand of products that are common, that they do a good job. Of course they do a good product, but their level of kind of reaches a certain point. And for those that want to be special or be an elite, well, there's a different brand out. There's other brands, but we can go to the car show, right? I think we've heard a story recently. This is always fun stories.
Yeah, I mean, the story that got shared with us, and I won't say the distributor, but he knows who he is when he hears this, is guy walks up to his booth and goes, what snake oil are you selling today? It's like, come on, man. Nobody's selling you snake oil. I don't have time to sell you snake oil. By the way, you just walked away from a car that you think looks great, and it's below average at best, if not terrible shape. Your interior's greasy, your car's all scratched up. You think it looks awesome because, again, you're just not educated. Right? It doesn't make you bad. It's your car. You can treat it however you want. But to walk up to somebody that's got 20 plus years of detailing at a high level and speak that way, you're missing the point. The point should be, hey, this guy looks like he knows what he's talking about. Let me go pick his brain. Like, think about how much further you would get in your car experience or as a detailer or an enthusiast if you went and you sought out people who are set up at a car show. Hey, tell me your story. Yeah, I've been detailing professionally for 25 years, and we have a really big shop, and we got multiple shops. And all of a sudden, would you say that that's snake oil at that point? Or maybe this guy might know what he's talking about, right? And we have this a lot at VR, with customers. We have it a lot at hyperCLEAN, where people don't realize the moment in time of, hey, man, it might be a good time to ask a few questions. That might get you a little further than, hey, what snake oil you selling today, sonny boy? It's like, come on, man. Like nobody's trying to get over on you with a $20, bottle of spray. I can promise you there's not enough money in that $20 to sell you snake oil and be a millionaire. Like, I'm here because I want to, help people get a good product in their hand. But that's a mentality thing. And it's also, you think your car's in good shape thing. And if I walked over to your car and pointed out all the things you've done wrong, you'd hate your car in 5 minutes. So why do you walk over in that way? And I think that's what you had on the phone call. I think that relates to the car show guy that so many of us have talked to. But again, I also think that's changing. I don't think car show guys are like that all the time now. There are a lot of great car show people that are coming in there to learn more about someone's car or to learn more about a product or a service or whatever. So I do think that's changing away from sort of that old, what you would call hot rod, muscle car, import scene that used to exist. I do think it's getting better, though. I definitely think it's getting better.
And I'm going to say, I think it's getting better because the industry is getting better overall. I'm going to say that as other brands have gone and worked and grown their massive companies, product companies, working inside of car shows, that has to rub down versus the old turtle wax and, the old school stuff that all those people only used to use. So having better products inside of the industry, I do think helps elevate everybody up. I do think, and that is why when I talk to people, I explain our products the same as I do wonderful craft beer. I explain it as crafted car care. We actually go through and take a lot of time to craft out a product to meet a specific problem that we see happening.
Yeah, I mean, and again, you're exactly right. There are a lot of companies that have put a lot of times in the car
Say that again.
shows.
One more time. I'm exactly right. Hold on, my word.
Not the craft beer. But yeah, I mean, I do think this is why it's such an interesting time, right? Because you're kind of out with the old, in with the new, right? New people want to get more educated, but you also are going to still have that percentage that's always going to exist all the time that just knows everything. And they don't want to be educated, and they want to come over and say rude things or whatever. And that's just part of it. That's kind of the thing where car shows got a bad name, right? And you just got to be above that and say, yeah, man, 10 to 20% of the people walking here are just knuckleheads. It's okay. But that leaves 80% good people that are going to stop and have a legitimate conversation. Or, we bring up these issues, these things that we see when we talk to people, but we also talk to thousands of people a week, and they're really good interactions where guys are trying to ask the right questions and get educated and see things. And so being one of those people is the way you got to live life.
And because the way I see the way the industry is continuing to grow and evolve, it's something you keep talking about. We keep talking about. If you become the specialist, you get to go talk to these people that are always trying to search, these new car people that are trying to search for the best ways to take care of their car. They don't want to go the ways of the past. They don't. They've seen the videos and they see what's happened. They see what's going on. So they want to be a part of learning and growing and using. Now, here's the interesting part, right? Here's the other flip is there's a side of the industry that does continue to shrink backwards, right? We've got people putting boat washes on cars, or, companies telling, hey, here's a boat marine coating, put it on a car. Or we've got people that are in the, been trainers for X amount of years. And hey, let me put one spray of an iron decon, a light spritz, and go rub over this whole panel, right? There is part of our industry that is going backwards, though. It seems like it's like, how did we get here? How did so much confusion and problems arrive?
Yeah, well, you got to remember, man, not everybody's a detailer. Not everybody's put in the time. Not everyone's going to want to do things the right way. They're going to be looking for a marketing angle or whatever. And I don't put any shame on that. That's the world we live in. How do I make some noise with some opinion that I can have on a product or show you a way to do things in a cheaper manner? I mean, that's all over TikTok and Instagram and YouTube now, how to cut a corner. I mean, the more I detail cars, the more I believe there is no corner to cut. Right? I've kind of trimmed the fat off detailing a car. Like any faster, I mean, I'm not shaving much time at this point. I just rather do things the right way. And you're right. There are a lot of things where guys move backwards or they don't advance, but that's what makes the podcast great. We have some video stuff that we're going to be putting some effort into. It now comes down to who's going to be the people that put the longest amount of work into educating the most people, right? That's what you and I are going to invest in. That's why this podcast gets invested into. That's why we're going to invest in video more. At some point, it's going to take more people like us to step up and say, let us show you how we think Elite operates. And you're going to have to make the decision for yourself, a car owner or a professional detailer. I can tell you, most people choose wrong for quite some time, if not their whole entire car ownership or car detailing, experience as a professional. It doesn't have to be that way at all. You can very easily operate on an elite level by doing really simple things, but you also got to do it to make it happen. And that's where the industry can go backwards rather than forwards, is that if you're always going to buy into this latest and greatest thing, instead of keeping your head down and just building processes with good companies, I think that's the way we continue to go backwards and not forwards. And the question is it ever going to get to the tipping point to be in a good direction all the time?
All right, so we can all kind of, I guess, agree. I guess at least you and I can. Most listeners are going to have to determine for themselves if they feel the quality of the industry's gone backwards or forwards. I think would make a great discussion on the community pub, right? Everybody chime into what they feel like. I'm going to say, I think if you took a big picture and you took a big picture of quality, I will say that I think it has gone downhill. And I want to challenge with a couple different reasons. And this is what I think would be fun to go through and see the challenge of the cars. Come on. Like detailing a long time ago had a much higher quality because there was less involved with it. So many people that just got their butt hurt because I said quality's gone down. I'm going, yeah, but that's because cars were so much simpler. You know how easier it was to clean a car with one product on the interior? We mentioned that GT53 earlier. 10, 11, I think, maybe. How many different surfaces, different types of materials, so many different things going on inside. There's no way you could have done that to the same level as before with just one product if you were using an old school product like an APC or something like that. The cars have dramatically changed over the years. I'm going to say cars is a big problem of the reason why our qualities continue to go down.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It's definitely more challenging and like you said, more surfaces, more different types of things. I mean, we can even see the popular Alcantara steering wheel that's become a complete headache on more expensive cars and always looks bad if not cared for properly. There's no doubt that's a part of it, but also the part of it is guys and car owners not putting themselves in a system, right? You and I go back to polishing cars early on. You used one brand of compound and polish, one brand of pads, usually the same company. That's what you used on every car. And that was with a rotary, right? That was with a rotary. And big, massive companies existed. I talked to a couple distributors about this before we hopped on the episode who've been doing this a long time. They're like, yeah, we used to have bigger detailing companies in the early 2000s in my area than we have now. So we may have had 5 or 6 or 10 big companies in 2005. Now we have 2.
All right. So
everybody.
before we get into the processes, or are not having the right process, like, what about education? You think education, and what about growing pains? I mean, the amount of people that have come in. I mean, come on, where does that fall in? That's got to fall in a little bit.
I mean, look, you learned a lot more hands-on at companies, big companies with a lot of experience 20 years ago. You weren't going to a training with somebody you weren't sure had ever done the work. That is definitely an issue. I think the YouTube world has brought so many opinions public that many people don't know who to listen to. That'd be another part of education. Let's say there are 5 to 7 reputable detailing channels. There aren't 700 of them, but there's certainly 7,000 of them creating content. There's no doubt the education's a lot tougher to sift through the noise now, because when you learn to detail at a company that was making a lot of money, you were going to do it right, and they were going to teach you how to do it right. And you were going to learn on the job, and you were going to earn a paycheck to learn how to do it right. And so you almost didn't have a choice to learn it the wrong way. That doesn't mean you didn't learn a different way than someone else at a different company, but you learned how to get results. I mean, point blank, end of story. But it was hands-on.
So you think also, you mentioned big companies, and now we don't have so many of those. You think also then, I guess we would call that growing pains, is like there's so many other companies that there's no more of these big, massive ones that are forced to train everybody. There's just so many millions of these small, little, tiny ones that don't really invest into the training education of it.
Yeah. And you know what it is? A lot of those guys that started their mobile business or started a small shop, they would have been working for a bigger company 20 years ago. Now they've started on their own. And so now they have zero systems, right? They just started their company out of the blue. They didn't really know what they were doing. They were going to learn on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram. And I don't think that's entirely negative, but it's a lot negative. It's on a high level of negativity. It's not always negative. Some guys pick things up and they're great and they know what they're doing, but that's a small percentage. And so everybody has been taught to go chase a quick buck that really never comes. They never really make, Brian was on one of our episodes about a month ago, and he said the same thing. If you can't reach $125,000 in revenue, he doesn't view it as a business. That's his threshold of, hey, now you actually own something here. And so, yeah, man, I mean, learning hands-on was invaluable to me. I think there's no question. But like you said, so many smaller companies pop up now, and everybody thinks they can do it, and more power to them, but largely they can't. And now they're swimming out at sea, and then they go attend this training or that training with people that aren't really as educated as they say. And it's a recipe for things to not move in a great direction. So education, man, I think it'd be great if we had this great system of education in this business. I think you and I both know it just doesn't exist. I don't know that it'll ever exist. Maybe one day it will. But there was something about that hands-on learning that we've lost. The same goes for all the blue-collar trades. They all say the same thing. Lots of guys not going into apprenticeships and things like that to learn how to do different things in the building trades. I think across the board, people are not valuing learning things hands-on, and I think that's a huge negative.
All right, so we talk process a lot, right? How to do. Process is so important. You mentioned a word, though, and this word is similar, but it is a little different. And it's what so many of these guys need to know. It's so many listeners. Well, for instance, we had a guy come in today. He bought some coating, and it was a referral. Another referral. Love referrals, right? Everybody loves referrals. It's a referral from a car show guy, Tim. He's a local guy that does this weekly cruise. He hosts a weekly cruise and had told this guy that had started detailing to come by, grab some of our coating. So I'm talking to him. Hey, what do you normally use? What have you been? I just grab this, or I'll grab that. He goes, I really do need to have a program. Like, I need to have something that I just use from one person, and I get all the information. I get everything from them.
Yep.
He knew instinctively he was in trouble, and this is what he needed.
Yeah.
However, most detailers, and I've had, as I've done trainings up in Colorado with a big company that does tools, and when talking with this guy that's been a big trainer there, he's really pressed me. And inside of a conversation I had with him was, we were just, shooting the shit after training, talking through things. He feels that the American detailer fights against having a program, having a complete layout, a system, program, a system, either way. Yeah. System is more of the word to use. And I told him, I said, I think it kind of fights the American detailer's DNA, doesn't it? I mean, the American view in general is to fight a system. You get into the South or anywhere through there, I mean, they are definitely still, a lot of people fight. You go into conservatism, they're going to fight against big, big government, right? They're going to fight against having the system. I immediately said that, but you think that the system is what, and of course I do too, but why do you think most detailers fight having the system?
I don't, I think probably some of your psychology there is probably right, but I'll say it a different way. We have an epidemic that everybody thinks they know better. They know better than everyone else, and they waste time. And look, I've been guilty of it. You're a business owner. You can look back in your business ownership and realize all the things you wasted time on that weren't productive. We're all human. We all do it. One of the biggest time sucks we see in the industry now are guys not plugging into competent systems. And they think, I'm going to order 48 products from 48 different companies, and I'm going to compile my own system, and I know all the best products. And no, you don't. I mean, 99% of people don't even know that all tire dressings contain silicone. They still have, this is a silicone-free dressing. I mean, it's like, dude, that's not how it works. Like,
you mentioned something there, though, right? But which is common. Most detailers, I think, consider that they would build out their own system, which is what this guy did. He said, I go, so what do you get from here? How do you get from here? And what do you get? Oh, well, from here I grab such and such, but mostly I just try to grab whatever. That has become his system. Most detailers, I think, feel like they are qualified, and they know, right, that they can build out their own system.
Yeah, so I'll tell everybody about this. There's a bunch of sites that have popped up, a bunch of companies, a bunch of guys I like that call themselves curator of products, right? And they sell as a distributor, but they only carry this product from this company and this product. So if you talk to them in person, they'll go, well, I got all the best products from all the best companies. And I go, okay, well, we can sit and go through your products right now. And this happened at SEMA before with me. And I walked through and said, that's not the best. That's not the best. That's not the best. And I explained to them why. Now, they thought they were an expert. I didn't bash those companies. I just walked through, here are the ingredients in that product. That can't be the best. Here are 3 other products that are better than that. And by the way, I wasn't giving them hyperCLEAN. I was telling them I wasn't there to sell me. I was there to show them, you think you know everything, but the reality is when I break down the ingredients and I break down what you're using that product for, there's no way that it's the elite product. So here are these businesses popping up that do business that way, and that's their right. I like all these people. By the way, I'm not saying anything behind their back here. I said this directly to many of them, and we have great friendship. So it's not like I'm trying to be a know-it-all. I'm trying to spread awareness that it's very hard for somebody who's a car owner who just loves their car to think they're going to spend the time to be educated on 48 different products from 48 different companies. But the same can be said about the professional. If you take this time away from your business, sales, marketing, and developing your business to go and track down all these products that you know nothing about, but you think you do, that's time wasted that you never get back. And we've all been guilty of it. We've all been guilty of wasting products instead of plugging into a system. Now, here's the crazy thing. I can talk to every company that I know for a fact is elite financially, makes a lot of money. They all plug into systems. They don't do this. I talked to one of our distributors, owned this company over 20 years. Let me tell you this. He's plugged into a system. He told me he's got 3 pads on the floor that his people can use to cut paint and finish paint. 2 products to use. That's it. This is what we use. We don't use anything else. He's plugged into a system. My business at VR was plugged into one system the entire time until I met you and I plugged into hyperCLEAN. Those are the only two systems I've ever plugged into in my whole ownership. On the ceramic coating side, I've only plugged into 2 systems, not 50 systems. And so there's an easy way to think about this. Everything you do in your life, you plug into a system. You want to fill up your truck to drive it to your next job. You don't make the gasoline in your backyard. You go to the gas station and plug into the gas station system to get gas, right? This is what we do. You don't build your own iPhone, which you could do. Okay, you go buy an iPhone and go on Verizon or AT&T and plug into their system. Why you're drawing the line here in your business is actually just wasteful. And if you're a car enthusiast, you're actually getting worse results, the same as the professional when you do business this way. You're not getting better results. You're wasting time. And that goes from the car show guy to the professional detailer, in my opinion.
So I love the analogy of the cell phones, right? And you could even take the analogy a little further and go, you can go onto Amazon, Alibaba, you can go any of those, and you could buy, actually, you could even buy the knockoff iPhone. You could.
Yeah.
Or you could go to Android and you could buy a really cheap phone or even expensive phone, either way, and build them out, customize them, like every single thing the way you want to do it. How many people, for instance, was one. I was a big one. I've shared this story. To me, we remember BlackBerry. That was my favorite phone.
Oh, yeah.
I
Me
love
too.
the
Still
BlackBerry.
mine. Yeah, my favorite phone.
I held out from conforming. And there was a big belief back in the day that you conformed when you were going over to Apple. Yeah. I held out, right?
Yeah, so did I. Yeah, but once you
because I liked all the other stuff. I like to be able to work it like that. And then I just finally go, I want somebody else to just, I know they do good work. I know their phone does great. I know everything they do. I can pretty much trust that they're going to put out something that is good for me. It's going to be user friendly, something that I'm going to enjoy. So I'm just going to go with Apple and just stay there the whole time.
Yeah. So think about this from a polishing standpoint. If you want to polish paint and you're a beginner and you're not elite at this point, you have really one option, in my opinion. Go into somebody's pad system, buy 2 to 3 pads, go into a compound and polishing system, buy 2 or 3 of those from that same company, and develop your skills from there. If you do anything else, you're not going to become elite, because that's not what anybody elite does. They don't keep buying compounds. They don't keep buying polishes. They don't buy 700 pads. They don't do that. And this is, you were talking about the tool company. I know this gentleman very well. He used to be my rep, and I say this all the time. You go over to the UK, largely they probably shop to shop polish paint a little bit more consistently and get great results, because guess what? They're using a pad system and a compound and polishing system, and they're not going outside of that. And so if I go to this shop or that shop, I'm more likely to get more consistent results in all the shops in Europe than I am in America. So all the bad work that we see from professional to DIY come from not plugging into a company's system first and foremost, and then developing your process. At this point, I have the amount of experience that I could use any product, anything, and I could make it work. That doesn't mean I'd have a great experience. That doesn't mean I'd get the high level that I want, but I can make things work. To be efficient and to get the best results and to do the best work, you need to plug into a chemical system. You need to plug into a coating system. You need to plug into a polishing system, then develop your process from there. That's why, if you look at the hyperCLEAN line of products, we're not releasing a whole bunch of the same spray 15 times. We are slowly but surely giving you all the options you need to plug into one system for all your needs. That is the whole idea, is that you can come to one company and say, okay, they're going to take care of it for me. Now I can sell and market, or now I can go out into my driveway and enjoy my car and get an elite level result without having to go to 42 different stores online to try to find the best of this or the best of that, because the likelihood of you doing that's 0%. I mean, you and I couldn't do that. And I've been doing this long. It's very hard to continue to vet products and even know what you're looking at. And so plugging into systems is how you run your life every day. Every day.
But so as I mentioned a second ago, system that probably, a lot of us would fight against it. I think it also is in our DNA for many of us because we love tinkering.
Yeah, that's true.
Would love to tinker. love to think, oh, well, what about this? Oh, what about this? Oh, hey, what if I do this? And we become these almost like OCD tinkerers.
Yep. Yeah. And so you can take that two ways. The car enthusiast, when they tinker, things get increasingly worse because they don't know what they're tinkering with. They're just whatever's hot on YouTube, I'm going to buy it. For the professional, when you tinker, again, you're investing time that's not giving you a positive return in your business, right? You're wasting time on something that you already had an elite level on. And so why are you tinkering? And I like what you said. It's part of a personality. It's what you think you're supposed to do. You're OCD about tinkering, or you just enjoy tinkering. And I get that. I think you and I are built the same way. We get to tinker a lot and scratch that itch now with the million different products I have sitting here that we have in testing. The more you can avoid that, the more likely it is you'll get elite finishes on your car, elite finish on your interior, elite finish on your paint. Your car will look better than 99% on the road. As a detailer, you'll be doing work that's better than 99% of other detailers. The guys that stop that tinkering bug and just find reputable companies to do business with, those are the people that become elite. And that's the thing we've been kind of preaching all year, at least myself, especially on Saturday's episodes. You better take your vendor relationships really seriously, because this is where you start to build a business and you get out of doing the things that don't make you money or doing the things at the car show that don't make your car look better. And I think that is why you should plug into a system like hyperCLEAN, or, choose a reputable company you like. But continuing to try to go outside the box and think you're going to outsmart the system, you very rarely do that in any other aspect of life. You just accept the systems in place to make your life easier. If you did it with chemicals and things in the detailing world, I think almost everybody would be better off.
So why do people do it? Right? This is the interesting part. Like, why? If we could go down this journey, and even if somebody is starting to get a little irritated because they're like, listen, I love to tinker. Or some people are going, I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I am not a tinker. But if we can start looking into some things that people might tinker on or why they tinker, you and I came up with the word negligence. Like, does it actually become negligence on their business and what they're doing in life if they start to tinker?
Yeah, I think ignorance and negligence start to become the same thing, right? Are you tinkering because you don't know how to do something? So you think by tinkering more, I'll learn how to do something like polishing. That's not going to happen. And you'd be better off just getting a panel from the body shop and sitting there and working and trying to make a singular pattern and polish work. I think if you're doing this as a business and you're constantly tinkering, I think you are being negligent to your customers. I really do believe that, because what you're doing is you're always testing something on your customers. And so you don't have a proven system. If I don't have a proven system and I'm charging somebody $1,200, well, how would you feel if somebody came out to fix your plumbing and they go, hey, going to try something new, never tested it, hope your toilet flushes and doesn't spill all over the inside of your wall, but hey, we're going to try this new thing. We've never tried it. Hope it all works out. I mean, you'd feel pretty bad about that. And I think that's where, you go into any Facebook group in the detailing space and you see all of these people asking, what should I use? What should I charge? There becomes a point where it is negligent. And it's not that far off for most people that they have a lot of negligent behaviors. And again, man, we've all been there. I made a ton of mistakes in my business. I wasted a bunch of time on stuff I shouldn't have, but I always knew to choose reputable people, reputable companies. And that's one thing I didn't mess up. I messed up a lot, but it's just logic.
Some of us like to think, though, that when I'm tinkering, right, and let's define, I think we sometimes, maybe need to keep redefining tinkering, right? Like messing with little stuff that's not very important, mixing chemicals or trying to come up with some new thing, right? Like that is what we're defining as tinkering. And here's one thing that people might not understand is tinkering means you're actually trying to outsmart the system. Yeah. Actually means you're trying to, and does somebody need to invent something for us to change? Absolutely. Is that person you? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We won't know,
yeah.
right? We don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
But
that'd be like, this is where we get into an interesting conversation. Do you think you're smarter than the biggest companies out there that are investing tons of money into R&D to develop a product, to see if it's stable, to see if it works? Now, does every company take that as serious as they should? In my opinion, no. One of the big reasons that I'm sitting here today as an owner, because I learned some things I was very unhappy with, but I did the research on what I saw and wanted to make sure I was right on what I saw, and I was. If somebody is, if so many products need to be tinkered with in your lineup, then yeah, you're not doing business with the right company. Period, point blank, end of story. And that's okay, man. You're allowed to make mistakes, but yeah, I mean, we see people mixing products. We see people changing dilutions of ready to use, and they know better than the manufacturer. And hey, man, more power to you. I don't think I've ever seen that work long term. I don't see any elite companies doing that. I don't see any elite detailers doing that. So I would say that my history in this business has shown me that's just not an elite behavior. So if it's not an elite behavior, it's probably for all of us a waste of time.
yeah, agreed. And there becomes the negligence part, right? Like if you're doing something that is defeating and it actually is wasting your time, you're actually neglecting and you're becoming, well, negligent into the
Yeah.
success of your business. But it is I love this conversation because it's what so many of us struggle with. And
Oh, yeah.
struggle is the word. It is the word because you do actually need to sometimes build things, for yourself so that your business can progress. And,
Sure.
and that's different than tinkering around with chemicals or anything like that. That is much different. So
Yeah, using more polish or less polish or going faster with the tool or slower with the tool or more pressure, that is positive tinkering to get a result, but you're not going to the shelf and pulling out 17 more polishes. There's the difference in tinkering, right? There's a positive in learning how things work and using more, using less or whatever, but reaching for your 15th polish on your test spot, that's not a positive thing.
how do we get there though? Okay, so let's say we've understood and we've gone like this guy that had come in today and he goes, man, I need a system. I need to just buy from one company. So how do we get there? I mean, how do we get to that point and then we finally go ahead and say, I'm in?
Yeah, I think my whole thing is you need to make a choice on a reputable company, some company you believe in, you align with, you see that they're putting thought into their products, you use a few of their things, you love exactly what they're doing, and you move on. Like, it isn't more difficult than that. You can always make it more difficult, but the reality is the more simple you make it by just trying to find good, reputable people that stand behind what they do, you're pretty much finished there. Okay? That's the finish. Now, go get their products, put them on your shelf, work them into your business or work them into your DIY, care of your car, and be done with it. If you're running into issues, reach out to the company. Hey, I use this. Am I using it wrong? Whatever the case may be. But to me, it's all about finding people that you want to be in business with. I always really liked the company I did business with before hyperCLEAN, but I loved the people that I was associated with because they were good representatives and they stood behind what they said. I didn't think about that anymore after that. It was good products, good people. I moved on with my day. That's exactly how I did it.
Simple. Because then we can progress on to other stuff, right? There's so many more other things inside of
Go
business.
enjoy your car. Go build your business.
Yeah,
Like,
so many other things.
Honestly, you just waste a lot of time. And I'll say this. In business, you're going to waste a ton of time. I certainly have. You certainly have. Don't try to reinvent the wheel on things that are already out there, that are already things you can plug into. Because if you look at your life, you're plugging into systems all day. Plug into a chemical system, be done with it, do business with good people. You're going to be fine.
All right. Great episode, guys. Thanks so much for being a part and listening as always. And we do welcome you again. Come on over to the HyperCLEAN Specialist Group. Go be a part of the community pub. We look forward to seeing you guys there.
All right, guys.